The Battle of Bethlehem was the darkest period in the history of Israel. Jerusalem was destroyed. The Torah was lost, and a whole nation was bound in chains. Among them was a child named Uzair, which is known in history as Ezra. They stayed there for about 50 years and then returned to Jerusalem, the one who was waiting for them. There was no ordinary life. One day they sat under a tree. Their eyes were closed, and then the land took hold of their soul. The story was just beginning. 100 years later, they were brought back to life. They had only their ass, which had become a pile of bones. Their house was still fresh. It was as if time had stopped and they just didn't come back. Rather, they came with a great miracle. Who surprised the children of Israel? This is a forgotten story, hidden in the depths of history before he knew his secret life. If you are religious and are the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, subscribe to the channel and comment. Tell me which city or country you are looking at. And if you like the video, make sure to like it, because of your like. This video will reach the other and he will gain knowledge. The reward of God. You will also find, if you are ready, start. We are going to a destroyed city, ruins of Jerusalem, to the place where the blood was shed. People were being deported. The history has changed. It all starts there. When he came into this world, it was one of the darkest periods in the history of Israel. Historical references and Islamic traditions, the glory and destruction of this period. They both stated, at the beginning of the 6th century BCE, the king of Babylon, Nasser attacked Syria and Jordan. Then he went to the gates of the holy city of Jerusalem. The arrival of Bakhti Nasir in Islamic traditions by God. The punishment is a source of punishment. The Israelites repeatedly heed the warnings of their prophets. What style was, and they have turned away from God's commandments and idols. They were destroyed by evil and evil. Those who knew the Torah were dead. Or have they lost their dignity among the people? Spiritual decay spreads to all sections of society. It was done. God sent prophets to warn them and bring them back. Most of these were ignored. God's blessing on the earth. It was sent as a punishment. The fall of Jerusalem was not just a general military defeat. The city was not built of stone and clay. The breath of the prophets. It was a sign of revelation and a holy history. The mosque was destroyed. Solomon was a great worshipper. The city was set on fire. The streets are full of blood, children. There is a difference between young and old citizens. There was a massacre. Those who survived, most of them were chained to Babylon. The people of Israel were destroyed in a bridge. The worst wound of the destruction, Torah was fortunate to be lost. He and his army destroyed the Torah. The people of Israel, some traditions, such as the killing of the world, the Torah has been remembered one by one. It is said that God is the cause of their rebellion. The knowledge of the Torah was removed from the hearts. Finally, the Torah and the coffin, which was sacred, both lost. He was such a man, which was created in this chaos. Or were they alive at the time of the destruction? According to Islamic sources, they were descendants of Aaron from a young age, and they were very knowledgeable. He was one of the few who remembered the Torah. At the time of the Babylonian invasion, they were very young. Some people say that they are saved because he was a little kid. And other traditions say that they were among those who, Babylonian prisoners, was taken away. And after a long period of imprisonment, he returned home at the age of 50. 50 years in prison means a whole generation in prison. When he was in Babylon, they looked close. How did the children of Israel grow weak every day? And how did the culture of Babylon and idolatry come out of them? They knew it was the only way to resurrect a new hope. Through the Torah. Because the Torah was not just a book. This was the knowledge of the children of Israel, their pledge, and he was their guide. Daniel was among the prisoners. In Islamic traditions, they are great. God's love is described. Both of them were in Babylon. It also became a symbol of spiritual humor. It is known that Daniel was buried in Tarsus. When he returned to Jerusalem, they did not know the city, the streets they left years ago. It was a ruin, the neighborhood where they used to play as children. There was nothing but broken walls and broken bones. There was no green child there. The gardens were destroyed. It was a great place where the Torah teachers were taught. It was completely empty. It wasn't just an outward show. Rather, it was a deep spiritual fall for those who saw it. Every stone in front of them. Speaking of this, how can God punish people? Seeing the destruction, he was still hopeful. In the midst of a destroyed city, they weren't the only ones crying in the past. They thought about the future. They were asking, how will God restore the city? And this question, it was the beginning of one of the greatest miracles in history. I apologize, but it's a small thing. For those of you who have been watching my videos for a long time, even if you have seen it, once in a comment today, write yes. I've been watching for a long time. I know that and I know that. And will be strong. Then they go back to their place. If you don't understand anyone, so you about them, you can't understand the biggest mistake. Such is the case with Azerbaijan, because what is said about them is not just history. They talk about faith. There is a limit. A stone is being given. But first they asked him who he was. His name is mentioned only once in the Quran. The 32nd verse of the Quran comes from the Quran. But this is the interesting thing. The Quran does not describe their lives in detail. He created them. They don't talk about their struggles. Or do they not say that they are prophets? Therefore, there was a great conflict between the Muslim worlds. Was he a prophet? Or were they the righteous servants of Allah and the great knower? This is actually a very old debate. This problem is explained in detail in classical commentaries. Most of them say he was a great man and a good servant. But many of them believed it. They were the prophets. According to many Islamic worlds, the Jews are the Jews. He is known as Ezra. It is widely accepted in the interpretation. And there is no common denominator in the history of the Jews. After the district, rebuilding Jewish identity, and he is one of the most important figures in bringing back the Torah. Then they will resurrect a nation. He is a central figure. But there is a very interesting thing here. The Jews did not believe in the prophets, but they are greater than many prophets. This is a very dangerous line in Islam. The one who can reach the highest place is the prophet. But if a nation does not believe a prophet, but he is greater than the prophet, and that is what happened to Jesus. But something like this happened in their lives. Something powerful that will capture the attention of all mankind. A miracle, but not a miracle. A miracle that breaks time. A miracle that passes through death. One person will die and 100 years later he will be resurrected. And it will lead them beyond just one knowledge. This will make them a great legend. Then people will begin to say, it cannot be a human being. But there is a scene before that day, a destroyed city, silent streets, broken bones, and a single person. He is the man of Azerbaijan. One of the most important questions in history. A question will be asked, how will God restore this place? God answered that question, not by words, but by a miracle. Surah Al-Quran, the most wonderful verse in the Quran, is verse number 200. Among the wonderful stories, a statement has been made. Indeed, this verse is the strongest of beliefs. Then one of the signs will be revealed. This is a translation or an example. Who passed through a town which had its roofs covered. He said, how will God revive this city after its death? So God put him to sleep for 100 years. Then he raised it and asked, how long have you been there? He said, "One day or another." "No, you have been there for 100 years. Look at your food and drink. It is not bad. And look at your ass, which has been made of bones. And we want to make you a sign for the people. And look at the bones. How do we bring them together and then put meat on them?" When the truth became clear to him, he said, "I know that God is all-powerful. Although no one is named in this verse, before and after most of them, and they believed that it was the sign of Jesus. It starts like this. After being in prison for a long time, he returned to Jerusalem. They are riding on a donkey and eating for them figs and grapes. When they come near the destroyed city, tired and hungry, they sit under a tree. After eating a little, they look around. They see a terrible scene. The walls are broken, the bones in the soil in a wet sauna. There is a thought in their minds. It was not a doubt, but a thought. In the Quran, Abraham wanted to see the dead live again. How is done? And God showed them, this is how he thinks. How will God bring this city back to life after its death? Some people say that they say it out loud. Some say they only thought in their hearts. But neither of them disbelieved. Rather, it was a surprise, and God answered with a miracle. When he was under the tree, God took their soul. Their ass was with them. They didn't have the figs and the grapes in their baskets. They were fresh. It was as if this place had been taken out of time. Years passed and the decades passed. Hero Chil became Lucky Nassar died again. The children of Israel were taken prisoner. It slowly began to free. New generations were created, those who knew him. They left the world one by one. The man remained under the tree for 100 years. After 100 years, God resurrected them. When they opened their eyes, everything looked the same. Figs were still fresh, the grapes were still the same, but their ass was just white bones. His flesh was decaying and his skin was gone. There was a scene in front of them where life and death were at the same time. This is clear from God, and it was a clear sign. God asked them, "How long have you been?" He replied surprisingly, "A day or part of a day." For they slept in the morning and the sun had not yet set. It was actually 100 years ago. Then God taught them the truth. Look at your food first. Then look at your ass. Then the bones gathered before their eyes. The meat covered them. Then he turned and re-entered. This miracle means more than just a living person. God says in the Quran, "We want to make you a sign for people." It means this event, the day of resurrection, is a sign for all mankind. It is possible to live. God's power is beyond time and space, what the human brain cannot fully understand. God can change it. After seeing this miracle, then he said to himself with complete confidence, "I know that God is all-powerful." It wasn't just a statement of faith. This was what they saw with their eyes. He returned from his death 100 years later. They were not just witnesses. Rather, they were a living miracle. And they lived their own lives. And he saw his food. The real test was just beginning. They went to a city they did not know. Among those whom they did not know. What they left 100 years ago. Everything was changed. The roads were new and the faces were unknown. Islamic tradition there. The entrance to Jerusalem is very emotional. They found their old home. I tried to find this place where they used to live. Finally, they came to a house. There was an old woman sitting at the door. He was blind and physically weak. This woman was his wife 100 years ago. He asked them, "Is this the house of Azerbaijan?" The old woman cried. He said yes, but they are gone. It has been more than 100 years, and there is no news. I was their servant. He asked them who they were. When the woman heard his voice, she felt something in her heart, but she wanted to believe. He said, "God has given us a prayer. If you really are, pray to see my eyes, and my body will be healthy." And he prayed. He put his hands on his eyes and said, "Stand by the command of God." The woman could see the miracle and walk away. Recognition. This moment became one of the most emotional scenes of the traditions. The old woman was full of excitement. They were taken to the congregation of the children of Israel. His son there, it was 18 years old. He was leading a meeting. His grandchildren were also there. No one knew them. Could he really be his father? Then his son said, "There was a black mark between my father's shoulders." He showed us what he did. Then they watched him and his family, which has never been seen before. The father looked younger than his son. This meeting was not just a private meeting. It was a collective awakening, returned from Babylonian captivity. Then the children of Israel came to know him. There was no one among them who knew the Torah. Either he was killed or he was ignorant. The book of God, the spirit of his people, which made them different from others. It wasn't just the buildings that were destroyed. Nay, but they knew it. And he came to fulfill it. There are two traditions about the Torah. According to the first tradition, and God put the Torah back into his heart. He wrote them and taught them. After their death, they were buried in the earth. And when the children of Israel came, then he wrote the scriptures. They didn't get a word, according to other traditions, and he was imprisoned. He remembered the Torah in his childhood, when everyone else forgot, and they kept it alive in their memory. When they returned, they taught him to people. The common denominator in both traditions is the Torah through them, resurrected.